Well, hello everybody. Today I'm going to make some Czech Christmas bread. It's called Vánočka, and this is a bread which is usually eaten at Christmas in the Czech Republic, or Czechia as they call it these days, I think. Now, they celebrate Christmas on the 24th of December, as do a lot of the Central European countries, and they have this at breakfast then. It's an enriched dough with some raisins in and a little bit of lemon flavouring, and then with some almonds sprinkled over the top. And so it's quite easy to make, but it's braided in 3 separate layers, and that does take a little bit of time and a bit of patience. So it's take about 5 hours altogether, I think. And I'll go straight onto the ingredients for the bread. I'll do the egg wash and the almonds later. So for the bread, I have 580 grams, which is 4 cups of bread flour. Now I should explain that I've used a 250 milliliter cup to scoop the flour and then level the cup off, and that gave me 1 cup was 142 grams, something like that. So I've rounded that to 580 grams. I have 3 teaspoons, which is 11 grams of active dry yeast, which is a packet and a half. I have half a teaspoon of salt, 2 medium egg yolks, which will be large in the USA. I have 290 milliliters of milk, which is half a cup plus a third of a cup, with 2 teaspoons taken out. I have 150 grams, which is 3/4 of a cup of caster sugar or granulated sugar you could use. I have 113 grams, half a cup of butter, which I've melted and allowed it to cool down. I'm going to use the zest of 1 lemon, and I have half a cup, 60 grams of raisins. And so what I'm going to do to start off with is I'm going to get the yeast activated. Now this milk is lukewarm. That means I've got it at between 38 and 42 degrees Celsius, which is between about 102 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And into that I'm going to actually put 3 teaspoons of sugar. And I'm going to stir that around because the sugar will help to activate the yeast. And I'm going to sprinkle my active dry yeast on the top. I'm going to give that a stir around as well. And then I'm going to set that to one side to activate for 10 minutes. And so we'll leave that to activate, and just while that's doing that, I'm going to mix my salt and my sugar into the flour, and then I'm going to put that into my stand mixer. You could do this by hand, but it takes quite a bit of kneading, so the stand mixer does the job in a much more easy fashion. It doesn't take so much work. So I'll put that into the bowl, and then I'll put the dough hook there ready for the rest of the ingredients. So I will be back when the yeast has activated. So as you can see, the yeast is activating, and it's been about 8 minutes. So what I'm going to do while that continues is I'm going to put the zest of my lemon into the flour, so that's good. And then I'm going to put the dough hook back in and just give that a little mix around. Then I'm going to drop my egg yolks in and my melted butter. And I'm going to give it a mix around again. And then I'm going to pour my milk yeast mixture in. And I'm going to mix that on a low speed. And as the mixture begins to come together, I'm going to put the raisins in as well. And then I'm going to knead it on a medium speed for about 10 minutes until it pulls away from the side. So I'll show you what it looks like when I turn the speed up. So that's mixed together. So now I'm going to increase the speed to medium, and I'm going to knead it until it pulls away from the side and it is only slightly sticky. If it's too sticky, I will add a little bit more flour. So that's actually been kneading now for about 9 minutes, and it's coming away from the sides quite nicely. Still just a little bit tacky, so I'm going to take that out and just knead it a little bit on the counter. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the counter. And pull the dough out. And the reason I'm going to knead it on the counter is I want to try to ensure that the fruit is reasonably well incorporated throughout. So I'm just going to press it down and fold it over. And where I can see fruit clumped together, I'm going to spread that out a little bit. And just form that into a ball, and then I'm going to take my bowl, which I put a little bit more flour in. I'm just going to sprinkle that around. I'm going to turn this in upside down and then turn it over so that there's flour all over it. And then I'm going to wrap the top of the bowl in plastic wrap, and I'm going to allow it to prove for a couple of hours until it's doubled in size in a draft-free environment. And in a couple of hours I'll be back and we'll go on to the next step, which is to braid the loaf, divide it up, braid it, and then allow it to prove again. So I'll be back in 2 hours to do that step. So it's been a couple of hours now and my dough has just about doubled in size. I actually, after I turned the camera off last time, I changed the bowl because I decided that bowl was too small for the dough to prove. So here it is. And what I'm going to do is I have to create 9 pieces so that we can create the 9 braids. And I'm just going to weigh my dough so that I can get 40% and 60, divide it 40% and 60%. Okay. So 126, 252, 504. So I need one piece, 504 grams. You don't have to be this accurate. But that's just the way I tend to do things. That's good. So that's my 60 and this is my 40%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this. In fact, I'll roll it up like this first. And roll it out so I can divide it by 4. And put those pieces to one side. And this one we need to divide into 5 pieces. And so, just as an aid, I need that about there, 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 and there. And then we'll put those to one side. And I need to roll these out into a long sausage shape, and we want to make 4 of roughly equal length and 3 maybe slightly shorter than that, and then 2 longer. So that's one. So I now have 4 and 3 which are slightly shorter and 2 which are longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with these 4 first, and I'm going to put them together like that and just press them together at the end there, and then I'm going to braid them or plait them I'm going to say this is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. That's the position. So as I change them, plait them across, the position will still be number 1, 2, 3, 4, but the rolls will actually change. So I'm going to start with putting 2 over 3 like that, and then 1 over 2, and then 4 over 3, and then I'm going to repeat the process. 2 over 3 and 1 over 2 and 4 over 3, and keep going until I get to the end. And then when you get to the end, just tuck them all under like that. And that's the first one. So then I'm going to place that onto a baking tray that I've lined with parchment paper. Like that. And I'm going to press down in the centre all the way down to just to make a little groove. That's so that the next one can lay on top of it. And with that pressed down, I'm going to take my beaten egg. I have 1 beaten egg here, and I have 1/3 of a cup, which is 30 grams of shaved almonds. That's to go on top later. So I'll just take a brush and brush down the centre of the dough like that. And that's ready for the next braid to go on top. And that's going to be this one with the 3. And again, just plait them. And this one's easier because it's only 3, so it's over and over and over and over and over, all the way down. I'm just going to nip that bit off because I don't need that. Tuck that under. I'm going to press that in the centre as well. And I'm going to pick that up and put it on top of the other one, like that. And I'm going to brush that as well. And then these two, which are quite long, I'm going to simply turn them over on themselves like that. Then I'll get the other two back, and this one goes on the top like that, and it is tucked underneath. Like that. And then that is left is going to be covered and with a damp towel, and I'm going to allow it to prove again for another hour. And as we come towards the end of that hour, I will preheat my oven to 180 Celsius. That's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and then I will come back when the hour is up and it's proved, and we will brush it with egg and cover it with some flaked almonds, and then we'll bake it. So I baked our vanotchka for 50 minutes, and I tested it with a thermometer, and the temperature inside had reached about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and so that meant that it was done. Enriched dough is cooked at that temperature. So I took it out of the oven, and mine spread just a little bit. As I think I said earlier, I don't think I did the layers with the dents quite deep enough, but it still looks quite nice, and it smells wonderful. So this is what it looks like, and I've cut into it. It's still warm. It's best to leave it till it's cold, but it's still warm. And I'll have a taste of it. It's got a lovely soft texture, and I can taste just the hint of lemon, and then the juiciness of the dried raisins as well. That's sort of nice and plump, these particular raisins. So, as I say, this is a recipe which the Czechs tend to eat on the 24th of December, but it's ideal almost at any time, basically. They do a variation of this for the same recipe but a different shape for Easter as well, and it's very good toasted, and I think that if it was to go stale at all, you could make bread and butter pudding with it, something like that. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll also put a link to my playlist of Christmas recipes, so you can look at those if you want to. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.